YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Warhammer 2, and folks, it is here. The Warhammer World Championship has begun, and thank you to the organizers and administrators. They have given me access to the replays, and I'm going to start sharing some of these with you, starting with the US groups. Some people may be sharing these on other channels as well. I haven't gotten a chance to go looking around, so hopefully I'm not overlapping with someone, but nonetheless, I want to give this event some coverage because it's awesome. I even went in and donated some money to the prize pool because I wanted to help make that even more exciting. I think it's over $3,500 now in the prize pool, which is absolutely awesome. I think they said there were 700 and something participants, so it's going to be an absolutely awesome event, and congrats already, I think, to the organizers and administrators on an event that is going to be absolutely amazing. So I want to jump in here with some fun matches that come from the US side, qualifying matches. So right now they're in a qualifying matches setup, and from US Group 2, I've got a couple of fun replays here. There's going to be between Sexvald and Human Boy, yes, and I think you all are going to enjoy these. It's pretty fun stuff. We've got Human Boy, yes, going as the Skaven, rocking Deathmaster Snitch, and Sexvald going as Chaos, rocking the Ever Chicken, who is ever delicious with his 11 chaos herbs and spices. He is a fantastic chicken. In any case, let's get this one started. We have a Skaven artillery box, and this is an interesting choice to me because, you know, Skaven infantry is not renowned for its ability to hold the line, so we'll see how that goes. But right up front, we're going to have a bunch of clan rats and clan rat spears, mixed in some occasional Skaven slave units just because of cost's sake. Again, a lot of clan rats all the way around. There are several units of Jezzails. Two of them are just standard. One is Natty Bubos, and then we do have the Vixtrin's Death Squad that is so hard for me to pronounce for whatever reason, and some Poison Wind Globadiers. Chaos is going to rock up here with 4 Marauder Horsemen and a Gore-Beast Chariot, followed up by 2 Exalted Heroes on a Manticore. Infantry is Marauders, and then they are supported by a couple of Aspiring Champions and some Chaos Spawn, and I do like that pick because they're unbreakable and high damage dealers against typically low armor Skaven. And then Sarthorio, the Everwatcher. So we're going to see, now Sarthorio obviously is going to love something like an artillery box because he's extremely missile resistant, and he can punch through just about anything. This quick hit here, Gore Beast and Exalted Hero teaming up, easily punching through that squishy Skaven infantry. But we do have a Warlock Engineer, notably, who has Howling Warp Gale. And then we've got a Chieftain, which remember is anti-large, and then Deathmaster Snitch, who rips through armor and does all kinds of damage with his Weeping Blades. He is quite the duelist in the right situations, not one to be underestimated. Now, the Gore-Beast Chariots tried to pull through, but the Death Squad gets a hold of him, and they also have a Weeping Blade, which just rips the armor off the Gore-Beast Chariots, and they drop very quickly. The Jezzails very quickly over here, too, just smoke this Exalted Hero, who also gets hit with the Deathmaster's, is it Sigil? I don't know how to pronounce that anyway. It makes it to where that unit can't move. And he gets knocked out. The Marauder Horsemen also end up in a melee here that they don't want to be in, and they get knocked out. But look at this. Chaos getting some of their first breaks here as these Marauders are going to break straight through and start chasing back the Warplock Jezzails. And then over here, the Chaos Spawn going to accomplish the same thing, chasing back the Natty Bubos Sharpshooters. However, they will be intercepted, at least for the time being, by some clan rats. You can see there is one Exalted Hero over here too. The Exalted Heroes could be used nicely to help break apart the infantry fight, try and rout the Skaven quickly and get them off the battlefield. We are going to see some final transmutation upgraded here, which makes a lot of sense from Sarthorio. It's a great way, because these units for Skaven, the 3 leaders, need to fight together to be a shameful display.
Shameful display!
You don't say so. Oh man, my own shameful display is not working, even though it should be. So yeah, we got the shameful display. So the Skaven are in the the Skaven leadership is working together, and Sarthorio taking advantage of that final transmutation. That is excellent value when you're going to get multiple targets like that, all with one, and it's going to get a lot out of Sarthorio. Going to see the Jezzails here picking at a unit of Chaos Spawn that's a little bit inactive at the moment. It obviously didn't come back from routing because they don't rout, so it just mismanaged at this point. Though again, another break here. Chaos Marauders heading in for the Warplock Jezzails, and we have another Exalted Hero that is in pretty good health, and then his comrade is now coming back into the fight from having been routed. And at this point, you still have multiple missile units. There's a Poison Wind Globadier, which, remember, this one is just anti-armor, nice damage, very short range, and then a couple of Warplock Jezzails. the leadership of the Skaven's still very much alive and kicking, and it's doing some very good damage. Not surprising. Not surprising. Howling Warp Gale used to control the air power of Chaos very nicely. And this isn't the first time it's happened in this match, so that is a nice play. We're going to come back here and see that the Exalted Hero did manage to get these Poison Wind Globadiers. And look at Sarthorio just all over the battlefield. 105 kills. This guy is a nightmare to stop. He is very difficult to pin down. Rat Ogres would probably be one of the best units to try and pin him in position. You could also use... I mean, Wolf Rats aren't going to last long because he terrifies, so I don't think Wolf Rats are a good pick. I mean, they're not going to hold him for long unless they have a lot of leadership buffs. But yeah, I think Rat Ogre is probably one of the better ways to slow this guy down. But nonetheless, we have a pretty epic fight here. Chaos has done a lot of damage to Skaven, but Chaos has also taken a lot of damage. They lost an Exalted Hero, they've lost some Chaos Spawn, and they still have to deal with all these Warplock Jezzails that continue to spread out. And even though Sarthorio here gets into one, and he needs to, he can't deal with the multiples, and just having trouble pinning them all down. And each Warplock Jezzail, I mean, they do a lot of damage. It may take them a little while to just straight up kill this Exalted Hero, but they are chunking hit points off of it while it's busy with the Clan Rat, when indeed this Exalted Hero needs to forget the Clan Rat and just get straight in the face of the Warplock Jezzails. The Warplock Jezzails are the critical enemy here, and if the Chaos wants to win, those Jezzails have to be dealt with, and dealt with first and foremost. Because Sarthorio is good a character as he is, and he is, when he gets some final transmutation and stuff out there, he is vulnerable in melee. He's not a particularly good melee combatant, and especially with Snitch here, he's going to just be chewing off all of his armor. And once you get him bogged down in a melee fight, he is not in his element. Another excellent Howling Warp Gale there, and the Exalted Hero gets shut down, leaving Sarthorio basically on his own with only the support of a few aspiring champions and some marauders back here in the back, and it is not likely to be enough. We're going to see some bombardments coming in from Sarthorio. He clearly doesn't have enough magic, probably, to pull off another final transmutation, or else I assume he would. He is using the Arcane Conduit, attempting to do so, but it is just not going to be enough. And the Skaven at this point, obviously, in a very good position. They've still got Skirmishers alive, but the main targets for the Skirmishers are out. And I think that this battle illustrates something interesting to me. To me, I think it's very risky, personally, for the Skaven to try the box strategy against Chaos. But what you do have to accomplish if you pick that box strategy is your Skirmishers have to kill the key enemies. Who are the key enemies of this fight? Well, Sarthorio, his two Exalted Heroes, and the Chaos Spawn. Sarthorio ended up being dealt with in the end. Why? Well, because the Skaven leadership wasn't dead, and he can be dealt with in melee. And when you look at the other targets, the Exalted Heroes, they got owned by the Jezzails. And the Chaos Spawn also took some pretty nasty shots a couple of times. So Human Boy, yes, did manage to pull it off here. Again, a strategy that, even though I personally wouldn't have chosen, again, if you're going to accomplish this, the key targets have to go. And I forgot the Gore Beast Chariot, also a key target. The key targets for Chaos were hit by the key units from Skaven. If we look at the damage values here, excellent damage dealt off of those Poison Wind Globadiers, and then good value off of all the Jezzails. I mean, pretty good. Not great off of Natty Boobos, but pretty good value off of these Jezzails with pretty solid damage dealt. Very nice value off Snitch. And the support from the Warplock Engineers, not going to show up necessarily here, but the Howling Warp Gales and stuff were very well placed, I thought, and did a very good job. And plus, Warlock Engineers don't cost a lot. It's actually fairly easy to get the value back out of them, and the same with all the cheap Skaven infantry. It's not difficult to get value back out of these units as long as they can kind of keep your skirmishers alive just long enough to complete what they need to do. But look at the damage dealer here. I mean, good grief, Sexvald's Sartorial here. I mean, this guy, he got some work done. 16,427 raw damage, 2728 value. So Sigvald was sorry, not Sigvald. We got Sexvald making me want to say Sigvald here. So Sartorial was very busy. Got a lot of work done, but it just wasn't enough. He can't take down the army alone. And the rest of his troops just didn't pay near as much dividends, with maybe the exception of like this Marauder here and a couple of other random odd units. They just weren't able to get a lot of value out of this game, which it is difficult to get value because Skaven units are pretty invaluable, or sorry, pretty valueless, I should say, not invaluable, by nature. And so it makes it a fairly tricky thing. Anyway, we're going to go take a look at the second matchup here. This one's going to be a Dwarves versus Norska. Let's jump into that one. So Human Boy, yes, is now going to be playing as Grombrindle, supported by Felix and a Runesmith. And Sexvald is going to be taking up Wulfric the Wanderer and a, oh freak, what I forget his name. I'll remember it here in a minute. Absolutely drive myself bonkers. Premier Balefiend, I knew it, Balefiend. Lore of Shadows, and he does have a Pendulum, which I like as a pick, though again, remember Dwarves are magic resistant, and there's going to be a couple of Fimir Warriors here. It's just standard Fimir Warriors. They are armor piercing, armor sundering, very, very useful support units. They do magical damage though, and again, against Dwarves, that's a bit of a downside because Dwarves are fairly resistant to magic. We do have a War Mammoth here, and then we have Wulfric the Wanderer on a Chariot, which typically I like as a pick versus the Dwarves on the Chariot, but Wulfric is, and I need to slow this down because there's a couple of things I want to call out in this battle. Wulfric is way up here, and let's check out this army here from Human Boy. We've kind of gotten a look at the Norsken Army. It's just Marauders across the front, and a second line of Marauders with great weapons. So it looks like that Norska was hoping to hit the Dwarves' front line, absorb some of their fire, follow up, punch through the lines with big units, follow up with the armor-piercing units and the Fimir Warriors, and then just overwhelm the Dwarves. But let's take a look here at the overhead at how the Dwarves are playing this, and you'll notice here that they are spreading out as the battle starts. Look at this, spreading all over the battlefield, because they've seen at this point that Norska has no hounds. And that is an interesting choice to me, to come with a pick of no hounds. Even if they did have hounds, they'd have to contend with these two Slayers back here. So I really like the pick of these two Slayers protecting the cannon. And then there's three Thunderers. So if we look at this back line of Dwarves, you'll notice that basically the Dwarves are freeing up a ton of space between lines. I'm just going to kind of put some of this green in here. All this space in here is a firing line. And they've pushed their infantry forward in kind of this nice big arc. And it's creating a kill zone right here in the middle. And that kill zone is going to help his skirmishers potentially be effective. Let's see whether it works, but I like this strategy from the Dwarves, because a lot of times what you'll see with the Dwarves is people will line up all their skirmishers very close to their front line and their back line, and then when units collide with those lines, they can quickly push through and easily shut down all the skirmishers. And in this case, Human Boy has deployed with good spacing between all these units, and then used his infantry line to create even more spacing. Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and Wulfric the Wanderer is near immediately killed here, as the Norsken player definitely should have kept a very respectful distance from all these Thunderers, because they are going to have their work cut out for them. Now, one way that Norska could try to counter this, and I kind of think that it should have maybe happened with a different deployment, and it still would be challenging, is the Dwarves have a very nice spread out zone here, and the Norskens just don't have the right units. Like, I mean, even if they did have flyers, it's still very potentially risky here, because you've got Dragonback Slayers, all this stuff, but they don't have the units in this build to get back here to these Thunderers, and these Thunderers are going to really be able to assert their will over the battle. And if you look how far back the reinforcements are now, if these reinforcements were close, they could come in here and start trying to thread these gaps and getting to the Thunderers, but these reinforcements were held way back by Norska, and instead Wulfric was rushed forward, whereas he may have been better saved towards the end along with the Mammoth. Even though you do have a cannon firing, the cannon takes longer to kill these units. You definitely needed units to get through these gaps. Like, for instance, Fimir Warriors, get through those gaps, start putting pressure. Again, you're going to have to deal with the Slayers, and so really to deal with Slayers, you need infantry units up here. So, this interesting match here, as we're going to see the non-armor piercing Marauders thrown in immediately against the Dwarves' infantry line, and they're going to be absolutely shut down. And Balefiend and Wulfric were hovering right behind those units, and they are going to take massive damage early on. And Norska just does not have anything getting pressure anywhere near the skirmishers of the Dwarves. And this is where you're going to see the Dawe become little powerhouses. Their infantry right now is in a fight that they don't mind for the most part. And their skirmishers are living in a land that they absolutely love. And then some of these most expensive units for Norska are caught up on a Grumbling Guard. Routing the Grumbling Guard, I mean, good luck with that. the Grumbling Guard is a Longbeard to begin with. They're immune to psychology. And then not only that, they're a Regiment of Renown Longbeard, which is like 9 chevrons. So getting those guys to rout from the battlefield, again, good luck. I mean, that's the stubbornness of dwarves embodied. And so I feel like that the Norskens hit the wrong target up here by going after the Longbeards. They would have been much better off in a fight like this, punching through it quickly, and then asserting their will on the Thunderers. But as we're going to see, that we're going to finally get some pressure here. But this is from the Fimir Warriors, and honestly, at this point, it's probably too little, too late. Look at this. The Thunderers can use their distance, split up, bring in the Dragonback Slayers. These Fimir Warriors won't be able to stay in front of the Dragonback Slayers, and now they're going to be slowed. They'll never catch the Thunderers, and they're going to be shot to death at point-blank range while held by the Dragonback Slayers. The Mammoth has not been able to assert its will really in this battle yet. Has some kills versus the Grumbling Guard, but that's not going to be enough. A little bit slow reaction here on the reinforcements still from Norska. We do get Seafang coming in from a almost dead Wulfric, who managed to get back into the fight. He is attempting to try and swing some of these infantry fights. You can see here the Marauders with great weapons arrive, and they do pretty good in combat. I think what may have been better here is if the Marauders and great weapons had been the one to originally engage the Dwarf infantry line, and then using the standard Marauders with their shields to break through and charge down the Thunderers, keep the Slayers busy, while Wulfric then comes in last, breaks past all of that, and once the Slayers get engaged, Wulfric is able to get into the juicy skirmishers. But as you can see, a Mammoth is absolutely no match for the power of guns, and gets absolutely cut down by the Thunderers. Thunderers will do tremendous damage to units like that. We still have a Slayer back here. The cannon is still well protected. This Slayer, I would assume, in a moment may come to protect these Thunderers, but honestly, these Marauders with great weapons aren't going to last very long in this fight as it is. They'll do a little bit of damage off the charge, but yeah, you can see there they're going to quickly rout. So I think an excellent formation here by the Dwarves. I think a good army pick by the Dwarves, and then not only that, it's one thing to pick an army that can win, and it is a very important part of winning a battle. I've said this before on other videos, but the second part to winning a battle is knowing how to use those units successfully. And in this case, Human Boy, yes, does this well. Norska does have a lot of mobility, and it does feel potentially risky to do what he did, which is to have to spread out a bunch and have these skirmishers. And you know what? Sometimes you may die when someone pulls it off with the right units. I was honestly kind of surprised to not see more light cavalry here from Norska. Like, honestly, it would have been interesting to potentially see. I like the pick of the Marauders with great weapons. These guys are a good, cheap way to keep a lot of Dwarf infantry bogged in a fight that isn't very good trade for them. Wulfric on his chariot, I think, is an appropriate pick. The Mammoth is just a huge target. He's a huge target for Dwarf. Sure, he's going to be great against any Dwarf infantry or anything else like that, but it's a big target. I almost would have liked to have seen the funds from the Mammoth split up into more mobility units, because then what you could have done was overwhelmed the Dwarf. Like, you could have kept all the Dwarf infantry busy with your own infantry, making sure that the Marauders are kind of the ones that go on the main lines. Tried to get through any gaps that you can from where the Dwarves spread out, and then you start to get through those gaps, and then you have mobility deployed behind the Dwarf lines too. You get the Slayers busy with an infantry unit coming through the gaps, and then your mobility comes in and cleans up those skirmishers. That did not work out for Sexvald in this case, and Human Boy wins a couple of rounds here in the qualifiers. So fun matches nonetheless. I thought that the match between these two players was entertaining. I enjoyed seeing both of them play. And I liked the matchups we got, which was Skaven versus Chaos, and then, of course, Dwarves versus Norska. Some fun matches there. Again, appreciate both players participating in the event. And, again, just want to appreciate the administrators for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to look at replays like this. And want to congratulate them on, being able to set up such an awesome event. Really is quite the undertaking, and hopefully you all appreciate what they've done. I know I do. It's really, really good stuff. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Hope you all enjoyed that. I'll be back soon with some more replays from this. I'm assuming you all will enjoy them, and I will see you then.